I've been selling on Etsy for 3 years now, and over those 3 years, I was able to hit 1 million in revenue within my Etsy store. So today I wanted to talk about all the lessons, including some hard lessons that I've learned from selling over all these years. So here are the top 10 things. Number one, things change and things change fast, and you have to adapt to keep making sales on Etsy. Over the years, what I've seen is I've seen a lot of SEO changes. I've seen different listing changes, different requirements that you are needed to actually be seen on Etsy. When I first started, descriptions weren't read for SEO at all. And then they did change about a year or two in where you actually had to put your keywords in the top of your description, and that would affect your SEO. And I did notice listings that I didn't have this in were seen less than the ones that I added it into. Free shipping was something that was huge for years. Etsy still advertises that they're gonna rank you higher if you offer free shipping. But what I've noticed over the years is when I first started, everyone offered free shipping. So did I. I did up until recently. But now I've noticed since switching that they don't seem to affect the ranking as much as I used to. While yes, Etsy may rank people higher when they do offer free shipping, it's not to the same degree that it once was. Gifting and optimizing for gifting was something that happened just this year that I've had to change some strategy towards. And what we've heard recently is we should be expecting a lot of algorithm changes coming in 2024, which means again, I'm gonna have to be revisiting strategy to see where I'm going to take my store to optimize for any new changes that Etsy's going to be implementing. The second most important lesson that I learned is that you need to consistently be adding to your Etsy store. A lot of people will just upload a bunch of listings and then never add to your store again, but Etsy does reward consistent behavior and people that are actually active on the platform. So when I notice that my sales start to dip off, I'll add some new designs, and usually I see my other products start selling again. Etsy doesn't want people who just set it and forget it. You need to consistently be adding, and this will also help you find a new trends, add new best sellers to your store. So don't just upload a bunch of designs, leave it, but consistently add. And this doesn't mean you need to be adding every single day. Sometimes I add a few new designs every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. Sometimes I do it every other day. I'm just consistently adding and trying to think of new designs, but again, it doesn't need to be on a day-by-day basis. Number three, you have to be creative with your designs. You cannot be competing against someone who is already offering the same design, already has sales behind them, already is ranking higher in the listings, and they're charging lower. To compete, you need to find a way to stick out or add more value to a product. So if a design is doing well on Etsy, you need to be thinking, how can I improve upon this and make it better and make it my own? So maybe you can change up the design, but then also add in sleeve print, or also find a way to add in some customization. Maybe you can move this to a new product that makes more sense, or that this hasn't been offered to. Maybe you can switch it to a new niche that this type of trend hasn't been applied to before. Maybe you can make it embroidered. Maybe you can add some trending colors that are doing really well right now and combine them with another trend to create a pretty much cross trend of something new that will appeal to people. If you're just doing research and thinking, how can I compete with this person, aka copy all their designs, copy all their niches, then you aren't going to be doing well. You need to find some way to improve upon what's doing well, make it better, make it your own, to stick out and carve out yourself your own section of sales on Etsy. The next lesson is not all of your designs will sell. In fact, most of them will not sell. You can create a design and think, wow, this is the best thing I've ever created. This is going to be a bestseller, and it's never seen. And then that one design you spent 2 minutes on suddenly becomes your bestseller. It can be really surprising what becomes a bestseller in your store. So getting too connected to a design when you put it up can be a downfall. Majority of your sales will come from just a handful of listings. For me, I have over 900 listings live. I have over 1,000 deactivated, and yet still, I'd say I have maybe 5 bestsellers that are bringing in most of my sales. I've seen some stores where all of their sales are coming from just 2 different listings, and that carries me into my next 2 lessons. And the first one of these 2 lessons is that you do need volume in your store. I know you might be thinking, well, you just told me that 1 or 2 listings can bring in all my sales. Yes, but the more that you throw out there, the more likely you are to be able to find those 2 best-selling designs. Because again, you're not always going to be sure which design is going to become your bestseller. So yes, I've seen some stores that maybe have 200 listings and are killing it on Etsy because they luckily had 1 or 2 kick off. Versus I've more seen stores that have over 1,000 listings out there that are getting continuous sales from a handful of different bestsellers. So on Etsy, you're going to be casting a different net, trying different designs, trying different niches out there. And then once things start biting, how Etsy works is when you get a sale behind a listing, it starts ranking higher. You get a good review behind that listing, it ranks even higher. Now it's seen more often, and now more people buy it, and it keeps ranking higher. And that's how something can become a bestseller, because once it's found once, it's going to keep rising. I've had listings where they didn't sell for 3-4 months. They sold and then they just kept selling after that. And the next point that I mentioned that kind of ties into the last 2 is that sometimes you'll be surprised on what listings sell. And simple does sell. A lot of my designs are simple text-based, where they have maybe just a name on the top, 1 word across the top, maybe a sentence, a sleeve print. But a lot of the times when I over design and I really expect something to do well, it's the simple version that sells. Combine simple text with funny niche down sayings. So I use ChatGPT a lot of the time. Say, write me a 5-word funny or punny sentence about nursing, and I put that on a shirt, whatever ChatGPT spits back that I find is actually hilarious. And again, something simple, but with a really funny quote that someone relates to is going to do really well a lot of the time. And again, I see a lot of students and a lot of people just try to over design. They use so many colors, so many effects, so many different elements, when they could have spent just a few minutes making 1 or 2 designs that are simpler that actually got a lot more traction. My next point is marketing definitely can help your store, but it's not absolutely necessary. So for me, what I find is when you're first starting out, you do want to advertise to get those first sales, not with Etsy ads, but using friends, family, maybe Facebook groups where you're allowed to post to get your first few sales, because your first few sales are going to be the hardest ones to get, because people aren't going to go into a store and purchase from a store that has 0 reviews, 0 sales. It could be a scam for all they know. They would way rather pick the person who already has a bunch of sales behind them and a 5-star review. So again, for my first few sales, I'm going to be asking friends, family, coworkers, anybody, as long as they're not ordering from the same IP address that I run my store from. Otherwise, you can be flagged. But getting your first sales from people you know is going to be super beneficial, or doing marketing towards getting those. But then after that, as long as you learn SEO, you're doing different testing, you're putting out new designs, you don't need social media. For me, I don't do social media for my store besides a quick Pinterest posting, but I don't find it really results in that much for me because I just use the quick Pinterest save button, which is a click of a button to post on Pinterest, but it again doesn't drive me that much traffic. All of my sales up to $1 million in revenue have been organically found on Etsy. And for me, I don't run Etsy ads. I've done so many tests for Etsy ads and they've just never been profitable for me. I think it can highly depend on what product you're selling, but on more competitive products or ones where your margin isn't as high, it's not that worth it. I do recommend you run a test because I have had different stores running different products where it was profitable and worth it. But this store where I got to $1 million in revenue, I don't run ads for because they've always just not worked out for me. The next point is you need to test. If I can't decide between 2 SEO blocks, I can't decide on my title, I'll duplicate the listing and try a different title. A lot of the times I'll also test different mockups. So I'm not duplicating my listing 100 times, maybe twice to test against a mockup that I know is working for some of my other listings, and maybe a new mockup that I really like and seeing which turns out. It's funny when you test, I've found a few mockups that I've used that have just given me way better results than others. And this is also something that can change over time. I found for sweatshirts a long time ago, model mockups worked. And then flat life photos worked. And then I'm getting model photos working again. So I am constantly A/B testing, which means trying to duplicate my listing and changing one variable to see which one works better. I'm also testing new trends. If I'm newer, I'm also testing new niches or related niches so that I'm reaching different blocks of SEO and testing different keywords within all of my listings. The next lesson is that Q4, which is October, November, December, can make you more sales than the rest of the year combined. For me, usually during, again, October, November, December, I'm getting about 10 times the amount of sales that I do at any other point in the year. And then once Q4 ends, you're usually going to see a plummet in sales. And for me, my major slow time of the year is right now, summer, because people are out. For me, I sell a lot of sweatshirts, so my sweatshirts aren't really selling. It's too hot out. But going into the winter months is when I see this rise. So try not to freak out when you see huge variations in months or even week to week. Sometimes I'll just have a bad week and I can't explain why. Or one day we'll have like 2 sales when I haven't had that in years. And I try not to freak out because usually within a few days, it's back again. So just expect variations month to month and get ready for Q4. This is the reason I look forward to winter now. I never used to before because I hate the cold. But now I absolutely love Q4 because that means really big sales for me. And the last one is that customer service is king. You should be getting the Etsy app on your phone and trying to get back to people within 24 hours. You should make sure that, especially at the beginning, you aren't getting negative reviews. If you do get a negative review, sending a message to the person, seeing what you can do to fix it and get them to edit their review kindly, because it's going to make a huge difference in sales. Social trust is huge on Etsy when you have so many more different competitors. Even for me, I would trust a 5-star store over a 4.5-star store. While somewhere else I might trust a 4.5-star, on Etsy, the difference can be huge. So especially when you're starting, if one negative review is going to bring down your star rating, you really need to prioritize customer service. In all of my reviews, pretty much everyone talks about how fast we respond, how helpful we were. I put smiley faces, I'm kind. I want to make sure that people have a good customer experience to get those 5 stars. And then I'm sending people messages to fix it if they have a quality issue, which if you're doing print on demand, usually Printify or whoever you're using will fix any quality issues. But again, this can be a huge difference between making sales and getting people to trust you. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you are enjoying your print on demand journey because it really is just something so fun to manage. And please, if you like this video, if you could drop a like and subscribe, that would help so much. Thank you guys, and I'll see you next week.